I think we can start with the session. So as I said, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And we really are appreciated that Peter is here with us today from University of North Texas. And as I said, we're going to talk about how to prepare for your career in artificial intelligence. So before that, we want to let you know who we are in case you don't know us already. We're Education USA Spain. So this is Education USA in general is a U.S. Department of State network of advising centers. So we have an advising center here in Madrid. And what we do is we offer accurate, comprehensive, and current information about the different opportunities for you to study at US accredited higher education institutions. Okay, so it could be, you could either do undergraduate degree, graduate degrees, etc. So how we can help you, what are the services that we offer? So we do academic advising. It could be individually or in groups. We also offer information sessions like the one we're offering today. It could be about general topics or also more specific like this one. And as I said, we also collaborate with U.S. higher education institutions, and we offer university fairs, presentations at local schools around Spain, and we do have a program that's called Competitive College Club. The important thing is that all of our services are free because, as we said, we are part of the Department of State. So there is no cost in any to take advantage of any of our services. Also, we want to give you a heads up that we do regular events during the year, and we are doing the Ask the Advisor sessions in February. And we also are offering another session about how to write a personal statement for U.S. graduate admissions. So if you do want to apply to do a graduate degree and you want to know a little bit more about how to prepare this essay, which is very important in your application, feel free to join this session. It will be really useful too. As I said, if you need more information, you want to contact us, or you want to have a look about, how to start this process, or have questions about the different options that you have, feel free to go to our website, which we have a lot of information and resources, and that's where you also can contact us. And if you want to follow us on our social media, we also post updates, events, and all of that, so you never miss whatever we do regarding US studies. Okay, so this is everything that I have to say. I will leave Peter to continue with this session, and I hope you enjoy it. As I said, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A box, and we will answer them at the end. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. You want to share your screen?
Yes, thank you, Anna. All right, so let me go to share, and here we go. All right, so hey, welcome everyone. My name is Peter. I am the Senior Director for International Student Recruitment at the University of North Texas, UNT. Here's already a quick trick. When you see in the name of the university, if you see a state, it is usually a public university, right? University of North Texas, public. If it has the name of a city, it's usually private, right? So Boston College, Boston City, private. So that's already how you can tell. UNT, one of the largest public universities in the United States. And so let's take a look at where we are located. If you look at a map of the night sky of the US, you'll see a big bright spot in the center and south of the country. That's where UNT is located, in a city center called Dallas-Fort Worth. Dallas-Fort Worth, one of the largest cities in the US, big hub for the traditional industries like oil and gas, but also a huge tech hub. All right, so this webinar, we're going to be talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and how to prepare for a career in this emerging field, the really exciting different job opportunities that are opening up. So why AI, and why are we talking about it now? I do a lot of my travel in throughout Asia, and when I do, one of the countries that I visit a lot, which are very tech focused, is India, right? And that's where you really see the waves of technology as they're introduced. Just 15 years ago, I would go to India, I would look on the back of a rickshaw, and it would say telecom, and everyone wanted to be a telecom engineer, right? Then just 10 years ago, I would look on the back of the rickshaw and it would say networks. And many, many folks wanted to join the networks engineering trend. Then 5 years ago, just after COVID, I would look on the back of the rickshaw and it would say big data analytics, right? And so that's really when the big data economy started to take off. And then just recently, when you look on the back of those rickshaws, it says AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So very clear that the next wave of technology is everything about artificial intelligence. And you can see this by searches online, right? Searches in the past had been very much about computer science, but now you see that searches around AI have really taken off recently, and that AI is in fact the new CS, the new computer science. So, where's all this big data? Where does it live? All right. So, this big data is concentrated in just a few what they're called hyperscale data centers. Hyperscale data centers, these are massive facilities. Here's one of the world's largest hyperscale data centers. It's in Abilene, Texas, just down the road from Dallas. And you see just how huge these facilities are. All these little black dots in the front, they're cars, right? So you see just how large a facility like this is. This is where the big data economy lives. This is where those huge data sets for AI models are crunched. All right, so in fact, there's only about 10 countries in the world where the vast majority of these hyperscale data centers are located. And if you look at the distribution of these centers, you'll see that more than half of all these hyperscale data centers are in fact in the US, followed by China and Japan. Very large investments in these data centers. And then when you look within the US, there's only a few states where easily half of all these centers are located, with Virginia, Texas, and California being far ahead of the remainder of the states in having these huge data centers. And these huge data centers are having a economy, an ecosystem effect where a lot of data-rich industries are locating right next to these data centers, forming these clusters of the AI industry. So let's look at how you can prepare and be part of the incredible jobs that there are in this new industry. What I did was I looked at the top AI job roles that are offered, vacancies, on a job board called Indeed. Indeed is one of the US's largest vacancy job boards where jobs get posted. And I looked at the top 10 job roles that are being posted on this job board. So, first of all, there are jobs in the sciences, right? Data science and AI research scientists. So I'm going to put a box around this yellow box. The yellow box are my scientists, right? Okay. So then there are jobs that are offered that are for engineers, AI and machine learning engineers, big data engineers, and then also natural language processing engineers and robotics engineers. So those, I'll put a green box around them, those are the engineers in the AI world. But there's lots of good news for those of you who are not inclined to be very much into deep technology, right? We also have many really good jobs that are not for technically inclined people. In fact, if you look at jobs like AI solutions architect, like AI product manager, like AI data analyst, and like AI ethics specialists, these are all jobs for AI professionals, but not professionals with a deep technical knowledge, but much more an understanding of what AI is used for practically in organizations. So, three groups of job roles: there's the scientists, there's the engineers, and then there's all the other professionals that are working in this new sector. Let's take them one by one just to make sure we have a good understanding of what each of these three roles, what they really do. So the scientists, they really work at organizations like where I am, right? At universities, at research centers. And what they do is they invent all the advanced data analytics technologies, right? They're into the concepts, the algorithms behind big data and how to get knowledge from it, right? Deep learning. So that's what the scientists do. Then there's the AI engineers. So the AI engineers, they are very much involved in the machine of big data crunching, right? They design AI and machine learning systems. They develop algorithms to interpret all that data and natural language. They create models that learn by themselves. And they build, of course, all the physical machinery around AI, robotics, automated systems, things like that, which you've seen applications of recently, for instance, in the flying robot, the drones, things like that. And then there's all those other AI professionals. What do they do? Well, they are actually involved in putting AI to work, right? Designing solutions for actual processes within organizations, analyzing those big data sets to make good decisions, right? They are involved in the actual making the AI algorithms into products that people and organizations can use, and of course, to ensure that they align with ethical standards, that all this information is kept secure, all those kind of roles. So there's your three roles: the scientists, the engineers, and all the other AI professionals. So where do you study AI? Where would be a great place to start your studies? Well, if you look at the chart here on the right-hand side, and just at the number of masters in AI programs, you see that the US is actually way ahead of most other nations in terms of the number of these AI programs and in terms of the top AI tech companies that are looking for talent in this area. And then across the US, you'll see as well that there's only a few states where many of these AI tech employers are concentrated, Texas being very much a part of that. And Texas, very exciting economy. It's driven by this motor of our North Texas economy called Dallas-Fort Worth, DFW Airport. These are massive airport operations. This is one with 7 runways, where at any one time you have 2 planes landing and 2 planes taking off at the same time. And this drives this motor of our economy. You know, across the US, you have different kinds of stories about how the US economy is doing. You've seen some decline on the West Coast in Bay Area, but the economy in Texas is still growing very quickly. And the reason for this is twofold. One, Texas has traditionally the economy focused on oil and gas, right? Oil and gas is still where Texas makes its money. And that for you as a student is important because it also means that because the state of Texas is very rich, it is able to keep the cost of education affordable. So that's the traditional economy, oil and gas. And now, of course, there's the new high-tech economy where every day there's new companies moving into Dallas, Fort Worth. And you name it, any world company, we either have either a headquarter or a research center right here on our doorstep here in Dallas, Fort Worth. So who is investing? What are these people doing with this new economy? So Texas, over this past year, Texas has seen some of the largest technology investments in the world, particularly in AI, data centers, semiconductors, and advanced manufacturing. So really a world hub of investment. Here's a more recent investment right just a few miles north of the big campus here where we are, which is Texas Instruments. Texas Instruments data center. Texas Instruments, of course, a traditionally long time technology company based out of Texas. And they now have developed this massive data center in Sherman, just north of where we are. And you just see the scale of these investments is just crazy large. Of course, the world's biggest company, NVIDIA, Texas is at the center of NVIDIA's $500 billion national investment. NVIDIA is establishing its first US-based AI supercomputing center as well, in partnership with Foxconn in Houston and Winstron in Dallas. So these are crazy large investments, companies that need a lot of talent in this new sector. There's OpenAI. OpenAI, of course, across Texas. You saw their facility in Abilene. Very, very large investments. Google, because a lot of this data is cloud-based, which means it doesn't just sit in one place, but it's distributed. And then Anthropic, also one of the very large models in AI, investing here right on our doorstep. And in fact, what we've seen with them is that they have moved some of their investments, which were traditionally in the Bay Area, they've moved them to Texas. Of course, we're used to very large tech investments already. This is the Gigafactory from Tesla, which is a really, really large tech manufacturing facility. If you look at the length of that factory, the factory is longer than the runway in Madrid, right? So these are crazy large facilities that attract a lot of high-tech workers. And so Tesla has a number of very large investments across Texas, including Stargate, which is where they do their space operation, and big data centers as well. Samsung, the Korean company, traditionally a huge investor in big data. Texas Instruments, we've already talked about. And then Meta, again, moving some of the facilities from Bay Area into Texas, $10 billion investment right here close to the university. So we're really at the center of these huge investments in data centers and semiconductor manufacturing. And that means that all the other industries that are data intensive are all trying to co-locate very close to where we are. So we are in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Here you see the heart of Dallas. In the center, you see that big, tall, square building, which is the traditional oil and gas. That's where ExxonMobil has its main office. Here, the pointy building, that's where Dell Computers is with the high-tech industry. So a very diverse economy right on our doorstep. And so let's have a look at jobs in this industry and what some of the graduates who graduate from programs at the university, what kind of salaries they are starting to see posted on Indeed.com. So I'll show you a number of those job roles and what kind of their average salary range is. First of all, AI and data analysts. Remember, I put them in blue because these are some of those professionals, not technical oriented folks, but much more process business oriented folks. Their salaries start at about $80,000, going up to 120. Robotics engineers, AI and machine learning engineers doing even better. Then in yellow, those are my scientists. The greens are the engineers, and the blues, remember, are the professionals. And so notice that some of the very best paid professionals in the AI sector are actually not scientists or engineers. They are business professionals who understand how to bring these AI solutions to real life problems in organizations. Basically, the upshot of this slide on average salaries is that the payback period of studying some of the degree programs in the AI field is very, very short, right? You're thinking 2 or 3 years that you've recouped your entire cost of studying these majors. So, what would you study for each of the three job categories? So, first of all, for scientists, there are a number of really great programs that you can do, starting, of course, with data science. And then there is information science, which is very much about how data is stored, retrieved, searched, and computational linguistics. Computational linguistics has to do with that natural language input and how that is put into a format that computers can deal with, learning technologies, and of course, at the basics of all of that is math and statistics. So those are the academic majors you can join to get ready for those AI careers as a scientist. Let's look at the engineers. Well, engineers, of course, at the heart of everything to do with data is computer science, right? Computer science, but also computer engineering. So very much about the machine that crunches data. Then there is specifically data engineering, very much a software discipline, and artificial intelligence and machine learning engineering. And then for the actual physical machines like robots, autonomous vehicles, there's robotic engineering, and those live in two engineering disciplines, EE, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. And finally, of course, there's within the engineering field, there are those professionals who keep all that data safe, right? Who stop the data from being abused and stolen. And so that is the discipline of cyber security. And then finally, those professionals, well, those professionals also have many ways to get involved with AI. Of course, there's management information systems you can study at business schools and business analytics, how to make great business decisions using these huge data sets. And then there are specific fields within a whole number of industries in society that are very data intensive. So you can, for instance, for the careers in health, you can study health informatics, also philosophy and ethics for how to use these data responsibly, of course, backed up by business law. And then everything to do with the human and computer interface. So this has to do with how do people learn, how do people retrieve data, how do people do searches, things like that. So for each of the three big professional groups, scientists, engineers, and AI professionals, there are a good number of academic disciplines which you can study to get ready for these careers. But let's look beyond that and let's see how can you prepare now, even before you get to your big academic studies? What can you do now? And a way to look at that is to look at the toolbox of each of these categories of job roles. So scientists, their toolbox, well, their toolbox contains a number of pieces of software tools that help them be effective in artificial intelligence. So scientists, they will have Python and R in their toolbox, as well as the other tools, the other programming languages that are used to access big data. Beyond that, they have, of course, specific software to do data processing for these huge data sets. So scikit-learn is, for instance, an example of that, specific software for machine learning. And then the frameworks that data lives in. So these are massive data databases. The kind of software that drives that are Tensor, it's PyTorch, those kind of software pieces. And then finally, to bring the information out of these data environments into visualizations that make it easy to make good decisions, there are a number of really cool software pieces. And I'd like to draw your attention specifically to Tableau. Tableau is a really nice, insightful piece of software. It doesn't require much coding, that allows you to make really great graphics based on very rich data sets. So this is what's in the toolbox of scientists. And as you prepare, if you choose that you want to be a scientist in the AI area, then you can already pick and choose some of the software that you want to start to take some training on to get familiar. My advice is Python. You can't go wrong. Same with Tableau. All right, let's look at the toolbox for engineers. Well, engineers, they have their specific sets of software. Within engineering, there's big data tools like Hadoop. There's also a much more relational kind of database called Hive, where connected pieces of data can be analyzed. Then, of course, a lot of that data of the engineers, these are massive data sets. So that data lives in the cloud. And cloud is provided by a number of very well-known suppliers of cloud environments. Of course, Google is very much at the center of that. And then the engineers that make the machines that use AI, they of course have to test out these robots, and they do that also through simulation. And so here are some of the software that is used to try out the machines of AI in a simulated environment. So you can't use a drone out in public unless you know how it's going to behave. That's why there's a lot of simulation before they are used in reality. And then the professionals, and here's a lot of good news for people who are not so professionally inclined, who find coding very challenging. So professionals have their own toolbox, and you may already start to recognize some of the tools that are in the general professional toolbox, like the basic data manipulation tools from Microsoft, right? Excel spreadsheets, presentations through PowerPoint, things like that. And then for data retrieval, SQL, and see again, there's Tableau. Tableau, if I were to advise you to pick one piece of software to get familiar with, Tableau would be the one. And then, of course, this data for professionals in different fields lives in professional digital libraries. The biggest one in the world is LexisNexis. And then per field, each field has its own electronic depository of data. Here's a few examples from the medical field, right? So professionals will have their dedicated tools depending on the industry that they're working in. All right. So what can you already do to show to universities and to show to future employers that you're very serious about preparing for job roles like this? Well, there's a number of widely valued certificates that are recognized by universities, that are recognized by employers as being very valuable for your next career steps. There's, of course, Microsoft with its traditional Microsoft certification. There's Google with its different cloud-based software certifications. Amazon Web Services, AWS, does a number of really great, inexpensive trainings. And then, of course, increasingly on LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning has a fantastic base of short, often video-based trainings where you can pick up some really valuable skills that you can use as a signal to future employers that you're preparing for careers in the AI space. So AI very much a wave at the moment, and companies can't get enough new talent. Universities are scrambling to provide really good new programs as well. Here is our newest offering at North Texas. We have the #1 in the US Masters in Semiconductor Manufacturing. Partly made possible because UNT already had a world-class center for nanofabrication. Nanofabrication, that's a clean room, right, where chips are traditionally built. And now we have one of the first in the US masters in semiconductor manufacturing with, of course, many of the industries that are at the really the leading edge of this technology right on our doorstep. So catch that wave, get involved, and we look forward to all your questions as to how we as universities can assist you in that. We have a very simple way you can ask questions and stay in touch. My team, we answer questions all day, all night through study at unt.edu. Study at unt.edu.